Hey guys, so this is probably the most important video that I've ever shot. The reason I say that is because I'm going to share with you the best decision that I've ever made in my entire life. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I've thought about this a lot. What I want to do is be really open with you and share what has gone on for me and what happened when I decided to quit pornography for good. Now this is going to involve me being a little bit vulnerable. I don't mind. I think that's actually necessary. I think the best stuff is going to come through if I am like that. So let's do it and let's dive in. So, when I was younger, guys, in my early teenage years, I'd use pornography a lot, right? And like a lot of other people, I'd use it to escape, to self-medicate, and to ease the pressure of life. But interestingly, within the first few years, what I noticed was that pornography can actually be more enjoyable than sex. So how I would describe this is that the ceiling of the pleasure that you can feel with pornography actually goes a lot higher than sex. And so it didn't take me long to realize, oh man, this is strong. This is actually a really strong drug. And I also realized, oh crap, it's my drug of choice. And the thing is, guys, I wasn't trying to mess around. I knew that if I was going to do this, I was going to be all in. That's just how I was. So to explain what this was like for me, if you've ever been addicted to something, you know that your mind can become weirdly clever, creative, and resourceful if it means you can get high or prolong your addiction. So that was what my mind was like, guys. It was super creative. In fact, it was always thinking things like, how can I get the maximum pleasure here? How can I make this, the best it can be? Are there any substances that I could bring in here to make this extra intense, to enhance the experience, right? Because my thinking, guys, was if you're going to be a drug addict, you may as well do it properly, right? And that's how I was. I took my job very seriously. I would have a kind of schedule. I'd save myself good images, good videos for the future. I'd consider windows of opportunity to use. I'd be tactical about how I'm going to fit this in if I'm traveling. Now, I'm not talking about what on an airplane. I don't think I ever did that. But it's more about access, opportunity. How long do I need to wait? Does this hotel have Wi-Fi? Or do I need to download something in advance? Or do I need to use this time as a deliberate fast from PMO so that when I get back, it's going to be extra good, right? Or is there a 7-minute window where I can get some internet connection and potentially make something happen, right? This is how messed up the mind was and how much I developed an addict intelligence and an intuitive ability to plan ahead, to get the most out of each experience, and to just think incredibly selfishly, man. All because I was under the spell of this drug called pornography. So I knew what this thing was, guys. I knew what it was doing to me. And yet, for a good period of time, and this is going to sound really strange, I actually felt like it was worth it, right? It sounds almost forbidden for me to say this in a self-development space, but I actually really enjoyed the bliss, the ecstasy, and the escapism during this period of my life. I actually really enjoyed it, right? It was so good that for a while I'd actually take it over a good life or over feeling normal and healthy, right? So pornography, like anything, it's a game of trade-offs. And for me, where I was at this time, I didn't have much responsibility. So for me, guys, I was cool with those trade-offs. But here's the thing. I knew deep down that I wasn't going to be there for long. It was sort of let me do this for as long as I can, and then as soon as I need to take some responsibility, sure, I'll change things, right? And I'll be honest, guys, I knew that I was capable of doing a lot with my life, but I also knew to appreciate and to kind of enjoy the sadness at certain points in life, right? So if I'm really honest, it's kind of enjoyable to be depressed, to smoke a cigarette, and to listen to Alice in Chains, right? There's a certain melancholy to that. But here's the thing. It's not nice to stay there for your entire life, right? So when I was 15, what I saw was that I had things like exams coming up, girlfriend opportunities, bigger life events, and I was kind of just man, if I'm going to live, I may as well live life properly. And then shortly afterwards, it hit me, oh fuck, I don't even have a choice in this, man. I can't actually live in any other way than this clean way where I'm not using PMO. And the reason being is because the universe doesn't let me. Right? So anytime I go back to that old lifestyle, I was burned and scolded by the universe so badly, it forced me to stay away, right? And being burned like this, what it did for me is it woke me up, right? So what I realized is that life is a game of awareness, and that pornography puts you in these stupidly low states of awareness where you're thinking just dumb, delusional, self-protective thoughts. And I was just man, I can't do this anymore. I gotta move on, okay? So what I did is I started to cut back. And this was hard, man. It was really tempting to go back. And sometimes I did. And that was okay. I just kept working at it because I knew that I was committed to the long game. So I forgave myself when I did slip up. But generally speaking, I did my best to remain consistent and to slowly increase the days in between each relapse. And then I remember like my first big streak was something like 5 months. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I'm super proud of this. And what it showed me is that you can actually live without PMO, right? So this right here is actually one of the most important things of this video. If I can leave you with something today, it's this. It is actually possible to quit pornography forever. And the reason I say that is because I get it. I totally get it, man. So for so many of us, myself included, we kind of think, yeah, I could do a week. I could do a month. Maybe even like 3 months or 6 months. But forever? Man, I'd have to think about that one. That sounds like kind of a big deal. To never be able to go back to PMO. To never be able to have that there if you need it. Man, that sounds like a big one. That sounds almost unrealistic. Maybe we should just take it slow and see how we get on. Well, here's the thing, guys. When I saw my mind thinking like this, do you know what I said to myself? I said, bullshit, man. There's no way that I'm seriously going to identify with this lower ego voice and not live my life to the fullest, right? There's just no way that my higher self doesn't think that's completely ridiculous. So for me, guys, the answer was pretty clear. Stop thinking about this forever thing and become really present. And then just win the battles that come up in the moment. Because battles, man, they never occur in the future. They only occur now. So this idea of forever, it became way easier for me to manage when I just realized, the present moment is the only place that there is, okay? And if you can just win battles in the here and now, you're going to be all right. Now, here's a question that I asked myself. How do you know you wouldn't go back? And this is a really important question to ask because we know what the mind can be like. We know how certain thoughts and certain lower consciousness states can lure us back to PMO. So what about this? What do we do here? Well, when you get serious, when you study your own mind, your own self, and your own behavior, when you know yourself inside out, you can see patterns. You can see if and when you would ever let yourself slip up. And because I'd done this work on myself, I knew the times where I would be vulnerable. Right? I knew when to expect the difficult moments. So I had an awareness of this going in. The difference, though, was that I had shifted who I was. So the old addict self was no longer there. He'd been let go of. And so what showed up when cravings happened was a different thing. It was the higher self. And do you know what the higher self does in my experience when cravings come up? It laughs. It chuckles. It finds it funny. It says, come on, man, you don't seriously think I'm going to be tempted, do you? Because the higher self, man, it's not fooled by the illusion like we are. Okay, the higher self is the wisest part of you. It's just too conscious. So when you shift who you are internally and you use your higher self like this, okay, instead of your lower self, it's like you're sitting there, but you're not in any actual danger. Because not only do you have your higher self, it's the way that you think now that is so deeply rooted in a promise to yourself that mentally you don't even have the option to use PMO. It's not even there as an option, man. And then physically, you couldn't even bring yourself to do the actions that would lead up to a relapse. For example, you couldn't physically type in certain stuff or physically load certain websites because that's just not what you do anymore, okay? So the only way I was able to do this, guys, is because I had shifted who I am. I'd shifted the way I think. And so I made PMO no longer be an option. Because when it's an option, it's hard, We've got a choice to make. But when you decide and commit, like how I'm describing here, there's no struggle. Because it's not an option. It's not what you do, and it's not who you are. So what I want to do now is answer this question very directly. So why was this the best decision of my entire life? Well, for me, guys, it just comes down to this, okay? When you quit pornography for good, what happens is eventually it leaves you. It leaves you alone. You don't have the images playing in your head anymore. Your mind heals. Your soul heals. You feel more normal again. You start to live in a headspace which is pure, and you're not thinking silly and stupid thoughts. I'll put it like this. Upon the removal of PMO, do you become free? You become free to think how you want to think, to act how you want to act, and to be how you want to be. Me personally, I could just never fully do this if PMO was in my life, because it created resistance, which meant that I couldn't be myself fully. Whereas because I've committed to this, like it's like life or death, man, I'm not blocking myself anymore, okay? I'm out of my own way. I'm not holding myself back anymore from my highest potential. This means my mind, it's not lagging or suffering from the brain fog. It means my mood and emotions are stable. It means my perceptions are pure and clean. One thing I'd always see when I was using PMO is that people would appear way more intimidating than they actually are. And it's annoying, man, because you know that they're not actually a threat, but the mind doesn't care, okay? It makes you think some nonsense about them, right? And I always hated this, man. I hated having that perception. So what I did is I flipped it on its head. As I quit PMO, I immersed myself in spiritual practice and spiritual awakening. And so now, if I look at people, you know what I see? I see love. I see a bunch of love, man, okay? The deeper reason that this was the best decision of my entire life is because it let me love. It let me be love. It let me see love. It let me embody love myself. Because when we use PMO, man, it sours our soul. It makes us recoil from love. Whereas being PMO free makes us warm. It makes us forgiving. It makes us understanding and conscious. Now, of course, you're not always going to feel like this. That's okay. As we know, suffering is going to be there no matter what. As it always is, But if you can feel like this, even just some of the time, you're going to live a life that is just so much more happy. And if you're an intuitive person like I am, for you, this is just a complete no-brainer. So to start wrapping up, guys, I want to say this. Wisdom is about using the right perspectives at the right time. So remember, this idea of quitting PMO forever, it's just one perspective that you can take. Okay, you don't need to do it. Don't feel bad if you've got plenty more karma to burn through, okay? Don't worry if you need to stay asleep for a few more years. That's cool, man. Respect that. Move through that. Don't repress any of your desires. You've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to be honest with where you are, okay? I would not be here saying any of this if I hadn't relapsed dozens and dozens of times and burnt through all that karma, okay? So always remember to keep your perspective. And if in doubt, man, play the long game, okay? I really wouldn't worry about like short-term motivation. It's just not that effective, okay? You can try it. I did it for years. But again, the whole point of this video is to emphasize commitment, right? Long-term commitment. No, not like motivation, okay? So bear that in mind, and good luck. Finally, if you feel inspired by this, and you'd like my help personally, I do coach people and mentor them on this and many other things. So if you would like help with that, and you'd like to start living like a high consciousness badass, go check out my website in the description. I offer a free discovery call to begin with. If not, that's cool too. You can just keep enjoying the videos. So that is it for me, guys. I love you. Good luck. And if you'd like more stuff, then my friend, please do subscribe.